Going through the run, I'm going to go in chronological order. So I'm starting with the big one, the rookie card. This was a card I always dreamed of having as a kid. And as many YouTubers talk about and everyone in the hobby, this is one of the iconic rookie cards and one of the ones that everyone feels like is the most beautiful with the white border. And it's unique to the 54s because it goes so far outside the border. So left to right centering doesn't really matter much on this card because of the small shot of Ernie going outside the border. But top to bottom centering does, and this card is really difficult to find with good top to bottom centering. Many of them are cut with much more border on the bottom, and the Ernie Banks sometimes even cut off on the top with his name, and other times just no border on the top. But this card, I talked a little bit about this in a previous video, but it was bought from a private collector. And when I first saw this card, I let him know if he was ever going to sell the card to please contact me, and he did. We were able to work out a deal. So this is the most I ever paid for a card, and this is one of the cornerstone cards of my collection. Okay, here's the 55 Bowman Ernie Banks. And this card, as you can see, was part of the national set break or national pack break in 2018. And so there was a cello pack broken in 2018. And the pack had both a mantle and a Banks in it. The mantle graded actually a 9, and the breaker graded every card. And after the national, I just watched for this one to come up on eBay because I figured whoever won it in the break probably was going to sell it. I think this presents really well. There's no chipping on the border, and it's awesome to have a card that you can go watch on YouTube being opened from the pack, a card from 1955. So really proud of this one. Here's my 55 Banks, and this was the first Banks that I ever bought. This one was bought at the 1992 National, and growing up, I was 19 or 20 before I bought my first Banks card. Growing up, cards were regional. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't a lot of places to get them nationally. So Ernie Banks cards in Chicago were really, really priced highly, and you couldn't get them for even close to double book back when the Beckett's came out once a year, and even double book when Beckett Monthly started coming out. So I didn't buy my first Banks till one of the nationals where there were more national dealers, and this was the #1 card on my list going into that show, and I was really excited when I found it. Loved this card, but I was worried about the yellow bleed on the bottom, so I had my dad and my brother stay at the table and make sure that he held the card for me, and I ran around the national looking for a couple other examples, and every one I saw had that yellow bleed, which was something I wasn't aware of, and I don't think I've ever seen one without the yellow bleed, so it's just part of the card. I'm talking about the bleed of that yellow banner at the bottom. So love this card. It was probably my favorite card from my childhood collection, this along with the World Series batting foes, and it's a great one, and I don't see a need to get it graded because it's part of my Banks run, and I know it's a nice card. Here's the 56, and this card has a white back and a gray back. I haven't gotten the gray back yet. I probably will. Love this card. I love the 56 set. This is another one I already showed on my channel as I showed my 56 complete Hall of Fame run. Same headshot as 55. It's nice that Banks has a different headshot in 54 because so many times Topps uses the same headshot for all 3 years. But really like the look of this card, like the centering, and it's a really nice 7, and I'm proud to have it as part of my run. Now we go to the little bit smaller cards. Let me focus the camera or unzoom the camera. That's giving me little problems. Okay, I think that does it pretty well. So here's the 57 Banks, and this one was a card that they showed in Baseball Card Magazine when I was a kid, and I dreamed of getting this card, and I loved that he was in the road jersey, and I didn't even know the Cubs had a jersey with a red line underneath it, and had me wondering about that jersey in the pre-internet age and how long they used it. And later on, there was a site that showed all of the jerseys over time for the Cubs and other teams, and they only used this one for 2 years. So Really cool card and a jersey the Cubs didn't use very often, and I just love the shot of him, the concentration on his face. Almost every Banks card has him smiling, and that one kind of has him concentrating, and you can kind of see the straight up stance that he had. Okay, 58 is the first year where there's multiple Banks cards. So this is the regular 58, and I love that it has the Cubs hat that they used for 2 years that had white stripes on it. You can see the white stripes on the front, and you can also see the white stripes on the other 58 Banks, which is the All-Star. The 58s kind of reminded me of the T206 portraits, where most of the major players had portrait shots with solid background behind it. So I kind of think of it as a modern take on the classic T206 set. And really love the centering on this card. Love how the yellow pops. This is the type of registration I look for, and this is one of my most beautiful Banks cards. Now we move to the 58 All-Star, and you can see from the slab I've had this one for a while. I've had most of these for a while. This is the older SGC type of flip on it. But love the 58 All-Stars, the National Leagues with the blue background, the American Leagues with the red background. And again, I was saying on the other one, you can see the little stripe on the side. And then you can see another road jersey that the Cubs barely used. It says Chicago Cubs on the front, both words. Really think that jersey is cool. You can also see it on the 59 Baseball Thrills. I'll show a little bit later. So I like that they have Banks in some of the road jerseys that changed fairly often for the Cubs, while their home iconic jersey has been the same for a really long time. And then the last card from 1958, I'm going to have to adjust the camera a little bit, is the double play card. And unfortunately on this one, Banks is on the back, so when you look at the front, he's the smaller picture on the back. But this is the 58 double play, and then you can see Ernie on the back, and when you fold it over, he's fielding the ball, and it's very similar to the shot that's on his 64 stand-up that I'll show later. But really like this set because all of the cards, when you put them side by side, show a whole stadium view like the original stand-up set does. So if you get the complete set, it's kind of like a panoramic view of the stadium with all the players together, which I think is a really cool thing that Topps did on that set as a tribute to the original. Moving on to 1959, this is a unique shot of Banks with him fielding, and I really love the green background on this. 59 has a lot of different colors, and the green is my favorite. And when I think of a baseball card set, 59 kind of has everything. It's got your logo, it's got a cool border, it's kind of looking through a circular view of the picture. It's got the team name, it's got the position, and the player name. So it's kind of has everything you think of when you think of an iconic set. And I really have always liked this shot of Banks. And I also like the Cub logo that they chose, kind of an old-time Cub logo to go with it. In 59, Banks actually has 4 cards. So here's his All-Star card. The 59 All-Stars again went with the red for the National League and blue for the American League. They're kind of ornate with the kind of almost look like an award or something, and they really went over the top with this design. But I do think it works, and I do actually like the blue ones a little better than the red ones in the 59 All-Stars. But the All-Stars were also high number cards in 59, so they're sneaky tough cards. Here's Banks' first multiplayer card, and this one's called Cubs Clubbers. And this is one of them. They actually make this one in Venezuelan and and I don't have the Venezuelan yet, so that's one of the ones that are kind of higher on my want list. Trying to get this to zoom a little bit. There we go. So that's one that's kind of a little bit higher on my want list, is trying to get that Venezuelan. That's a really tough card. But this one is actually sneaky tough too. You can see I've got one print dot on it, and there's a lot of print dots that are on the 59 Cubs Clubber, so finding a relatively clean one like this was not easy. Banks was included in the awesome 59 Baseball Thrills subset, and I love the artwork on these cards. I've got all the Hall of Famers from that baseball throws set. And again, this shows that that Chicago Cubs uniform that they wore for 1 year that shows on the road the full name of the Cubs, and it also has the white stripes on the hat. Some of my friends who are really big Cub fans thought this was like a mock-up of a fake Cub jersey, but it is something that he really wore, as I showed on the previous card. And this has a really incredible photo. It's like an AP photo. If you look for it, the photo that this was drawn off of was a really cool photo as well. 1960, Banks has 2 cards, the regular and the All-Star again, and 60 is one of my favorite sets, and this one, kind of like the rookie card, and it shows kind of his straight-up stance that he kind of had, where he bent below, but his upper half was straight, and you can see that really well on this card. I actually like the smaller picture better than the larger picture, and it's got that same great Cub logo that was on the 59. So really a fan of the 60 set and all the colors, and this one is he looks young in this picture, probably younger than he is. I'm guessing that the main picture is a little bit older of a shot of him. The 60 All-Star, I think Topps did a great job. It's one of my favorite All-Star subsets. I just like the way that it's got the big 60 behind it. I like the horizontal look. This one was uniform between the American and the National League. They didn't do the different colors like they did on many of the other years. But really think this is a cool looking set with the way they did the black shadow behind all the players to make them really stand out. Topps really did a great job with these early All-Star sets, and it's great that Banks is included in so many of them. 61, Banks has a few cards, and this is the first time he shows up on a leader, and it's got 3 Hall of Famers on it. It's the 61 NL home run leaders, and it has Aaron, Matthews, and Banks on it, so really cool leader card. 61 has a lot of great leader cards with a lot of Hall of Famers. It's one of the better years in that regard. So cool to have him with some other greats of the time. 61 regular card. This one is in an SGC slab, as you can see, in an old SGC slab, with the old grade of a 92, which is an 8.5. Some older slabs that I have, I don't know if I have any in Ernie Banks, don't even tell you what the 10-point scale is on it. You just have to have it memorized. 92 is an 8.5, 88 is an 8, 86 is a 7.5, so forth. So the old school SGC kind of had a different scale. I've always liked this card. There's not a lot of cards with him without a hat on. So I kind of like seeing that, and he just looks like he's looking off dreamily off to the side, and it's a different look. It's not his typical smiling look that he has, because I don't think many people ever saw Ernie Banks without a smile on his face. 61 has the great MVP set as well, and again, National League's blue in this one, American League's red, and Banks was a 2-time MVP. On this, it says 58 and 59. Those were the 2 that he won, and he's one of the few players who win back-to-back MVPs. And I just think this is a really cool set, just showing the MVPs through the years that Topps did, and getting a way to have an extra card of the greats. Here's the 61 Banks All-Star, and again, Topps went with the high numbers for the All-Stars, so they're a little bit tougher, but not as tough as many of the high numbers, because there's a lot of cello packs from 61 that seem to survive and have been opened over the last 10 years. So the high numbers in 61 have gotten cheaper, actually, than they were before some of those had surfaced. The same design was again used in 70, but I think the 61 looks much better because not having the gray border around it. It's a bigger photo of the player, and I think they did a better job of making the player pop out of the newspaper than I did in the 70 iteration of this. Really like this shot of Ernie. It's another unique one that he has so many just smiling portraits. This one kind of is a little different look, and I've always found it to be a really cool Banks card. Here's the 62, and this is the first year in a while that Banks only has a single card, and as everyone knows, the borders are tough on this one, so I didn't focus on centering. I focused on registration and no chipping, kind of like with my 55 Bowman set and Bowman Hall of Fame set. And I really was excited when I found this one. I think the picture is just as crystal clear on it, and I don't see any chipping on the border, which is really hard to find for 62s. Moving to 63, Banks has 3 cards in 63, and the first is probably the greatest leader card in Topps history. This one has 5 Hall of Famers on it. As far as I know, it's the only Topps vintage card that has that many Hall of Famers on it. And boy, do you get the good ones. You've got Aaron, you've got Mays, you've got Frank Robinson, Ernie Banks, and Orlando Cepeda. And this card is really gone up in price over the last 10 years or so. It used to be fairly reasonable, and it's become a kind of popular card and probably the most popular leader card. The floating heads are something people either love or hate. I think they're really cool looking, and I think this card is an all-time classic of Topps. Here we have Banks' 63 card, and this one was in a SGC type of holder that they did for a very short period of time. They've had a lot of different flips over the years, so you kind of can see a little bit different flip style. I love the 63 set. I really struggle to find 63 cards that I like because the bottom 2 corners chip so easily, and the centering is not the best in 63. This one's not perfectly centered, but it's better than most. But I like the small picture. That small picture, again, it's similar to the 58 double play, and it's also similar to the 64 stand-up card. But I like the way that he's got a fielding shot in the smaller picture, and he's got the bat in the big picture. I've always liked this card. This one is the Power Plus multiplayer card, and it has Aaron and Banks. And this one was an eBay purchase of mine, and this was a exercise in persistence. This card was listed over and over again, and every 90 days when it relist, I would make the same offer because the seller had a crazy price on it. He never would respond, and the day it would relist, I'd make the same offer. And about, I think it was probably over a year, maybe a year and a half of making those offers on the first day he listed it, he actually finally accepted it. And finding a card of Power Plus with no chipping on those bottom 2 corners, it was not easy. And I love the card with Banks and Aaron, and it's probably my favorite of Banks' multiplayer cards. 64, I have 2 Banks cards. I've got the regular one, which I just honestly, this is probably the most pedestrian of the Banks cards. It's a portrait like many of them are, but it's not as nice of a portrait as most of them. But I do like the 64 design. I like the teams on the top. Make them easy to sort by team, which I imagine many kids did when I was collecting newer cards. I was sorting by team, so the 64 makes that easy, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of what Topps did in '86 as well. And Banks is now a first baseman in this point in his career. His first card listed as first base was 63, and from here on out he played first base, and he was no longer a shortstop. And this kind of started a little bit the decline phase for Banks as a hitter. And this one I mentioned a couple times, now I'm finally showing it. It's a 64 stand-up, and it's got that fielding shot that it looks like the same photo that was used for the 58 double play, and it might be the same shot that's in the 63 smaller photo. I love the 64 stand-up. This was the first one I bought, and after getting this card, I've gotten a lot more, and it's one of the projects I'm working on, is trying to get all the Hall of Famers from the 64 stand-up set. 65 is the only shot where it's Banks in a profile shot instead of a portrait shot, and it's kind of interesting to see him that way. It's so much different than all those other cards that I really like it just for the uniqueness. And I love how the Cubs look on the 65, the color match between the blue and the red, and the way the Cub looks on that pennant. I really think the Cubs have one of the better looks in the 65 set. Moving to 66, I've got a rainbow actually, so here's the O-Pee-Chee. O-Pee-Chee, I always have trouble saying that. Actually, of the print, the Topps is the clearest. The O-Pee-Chee is almost as clear, and then Venezuelan is on a cheaper paper stock, so they look way different from the front. You can tell them from the front, and then you can easily tell them from the back. So the O-Pee-Chee back is much lighter than the regular back. Or I'm sorry, it's the gray cardstock. The regular back is a white cardstock, so that's the easiest way to tell them. And then you can see the printed in Canada down here. So here's the O-Pee-Chee, here's the tops, and then here's the Venezuelan. And you can tell that the paper stock is different on the Venezuelan, and it's a little bit yellow. It's more of a paper stock than a cardboard paper stock. And then the back on the Venezuelan is way different. So really excited to have the 366 Banks cards. This run is not easy to get. The Venezuelan is a really tough card. The O-Pee-Chee is a very tough card. So having all three of them is something that I'm really proud of as a Banks collector. And I just love looking at the three of them together like this. So really proud to have these in my collection. Moving on, 67, Banks has one card, and it's kind of a different shot again. He's got the big smile on his face. I like the facsimile autograph, and I like that it says Ernest. And this one's just a really, really sharp Banks card. And the 67 set is really an affordable set if you stay out of the high numbers. And this is an earlier number card. And as far as it looking vintage, I think it's a nicer card than the 68s and the 69s at that type of price point. 68, I have the tops in the Venezuela, so I'll just show them together. And you can see the very difference in print stock. The Venezuelan is more like a newspaper type print, and then the tops has a clear photo type print. And then the backs are totally different on the 68s between the tops and the Venezuela. Banks does not have a 68 O-Pee-Chee, so that's it for the 68s. I have both of them. 69's next, and this is the last of Banks on a leader card, the 68 home run leaders, and this one now has 3 Hall of Famers. When I bought it, it had 2, but Richie Allen is one of the newest elected Hall of Famers, so it's become a 3 Hall of Famer leader card. I'm trying to zoom a little bit if I can. I'm not able to get to work on this one, but you can see a really good shot of all 3 of them. And then the back, of course, has kind of the home run leaders in order, and Banks was 3rd with 32. At 68 and 69 were kind of the years of the pitchers, and these are the 68 leaders. And they raised the mound after 68 because there was so much, the pitching was so dominant in 68, probably because of Bob Gibson's season primarily, that they decided to raise the mounds. Here's the 69 Banks, and this one's a really popular one. Growing up in Chicago, every dealer had all the 69 Cubs. If you're a Cub fan, you understand the legend of the 69 Cubs. That was the team that should have won but choked it away to the Miracle Mets, and they have a soft spot in everyone from my dad's generation loves the 69 Cubs, and in every Chicago show, the 69 Cubs could not stay in stock. So this is one I bought fairly recently because, again, post-internet, you could get these cards from dealers that weren't so Chicago-focused. 1970, a sneaky tough card because it's a high number, so it's a little more expensive than you'd imagine for 70 Banks. And it's got kind of the iconic jersey that was on the 69, but in both cases, these jerseys tint blue on the tops photos, and they're really a gray jersey, so it's kind of interesting how these were tinted, but it looks bluish on the 69 and the 70, but not on the 68. It looks a little bit more its true gray tone. And then 71 was the last year for Banks, and I have 3 of those. I have the O-Pee-Chee, which really proud to have this one. This is one of the tougher O-Pee-Chee series. The last 2 series in O-Pee-Chee 71 are really tough. And of course the gorgeous O-Pee-Chee backs with the bright yellow color that really stands out. And I think a lot of collectors really gravitate to the set because of those backs. And then the regular tops obviously has the same image. And 71 was a year where O-Pee-Chee had the full set, but you can see the backs, the green versus the yellow, and the yellow really pops. And then my last Topps Banks card is the 71 Greatest Moments, which is really a cool set. It's got the black border, like the 71s, but it has the action shot in the middle, and then it has a headshot on the left. But one of my favorite things about the 71 Greatest Moments set is the back. It's actually, as far as I know, the first glossy back that anyone produced. It's odd that they put full gloss on the back, but the coolest part about it is each player has the top of the newspaper from their hometown. So in this case, they chose the Sun-Times, not the Tribune, for Chicago. And then it has kind of one of the great feats that the players had, and kind of like a newspaper article from that hometown paper. So if you get a few of these, it's kind of cool to see the old logos from all the newspapers. So I hope you enjoyed looking at my Ernie Banks cards. I'm very, very proud to have the full run, and as a Cub fan, this was a dream of mine growing up collecting that I didn't think I'd ever obtain, and when I completed this run, it was really one of my proudest collecting moments. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing these cards, and thank you for watching. Remember, if you're not excited to add it to your collection, you bought the wrong card.